This is the 3D Viewmaster Adventure Kung Fu. Viewmaster Reel 1. Picture 1. Caine, world wanderer and priest of a faith as old as time, found nothing to surprise him in the discovery that evil had preceded him along an obscure donkey trail in a desert fastness of the North American Southwest. Pinned beneath the wreckage of a wagon was an ancient woman in whose glittering eyes, pain-wracked though she was, lurked awareness of things beyond the ken of ordinary mortals. As Caine lifted the heavy wheel from her crushed legs, she muttered between clenched teeth, "I have waited long, priest of a far land, but you have come at last." She pointed beyond the cart to where a strange white-haired boy stood watching, tense and fearful. "The boy," whispered the old woman, "I give him into your keeping. He cannot speak, but he can understand. You must take him to the village of Saint-Martin, to the south. There is darkness there and evil, but you are touched with light. You are needed there. Go quickly." Picture 2. Within moments the old lady breathed her last shuddering breath, and without question Caine picked up the burden she had laid before him. Reassuring the boy in his soft-spoken way, he led him on the trail toward Saint-Martin. Not for long the way they encountered a flock of sheep owned by Don Fierro, chief landowner of the region. As it happened, the Don was out with his hunting hawk attended by Esteban, his major domo. Suddenly, to the two men's amazement, the hawk swerved in mid-flight and plunged down to land with a rush of wings on the head of the boy, who went rigid before the startled eyes of Caine. Picture 3. Watching from a distance, Don Fierro made the sign of the cross. "What can it mean?" he asked uneasily. "Never before has the bird flown to anyone but me." "The boy is a witch," exclaimed Esteban, visibly shaken. "Perhaps even the devil himself." Caine, on the other hand, saw only a bird, a fellow creature. All the same he was aware that an evil force was abroad, and the boy somehow was its victim. In Saint-Martin, word had reached the villagers that the ancient woman had died, that her powers may have passed to the boy and to the stranger, and that somehow there might be hope of deliverance from the curse that lay upon them. Picture 4. Led to a hut by a village leader named Miguel, Caine found a number of people desperately ill. "It is the curse," he was told, "the curse of El Brujo. They die, as our goats and sheep have died." The boy, has he the power? Can he help us? Just then a frantic young woman rushed in with a stricken baby. Calmly, Caine took the infant from her. "Let me help. I have some small knowledge of healing." Even as he spoke, a dark figure in a cave not far off in the desert flung handfuls of an evil-smelling mixture into a smoking pot and muttered an incantation. At the same time he grasped a white-haired doll in a hairy fist and slowly pushed a long pin through its tiny head. Picture 5. In the hut, the boy had begun to move from one sick person to another, uttering strange sounds that were not speech and describing an odd sign of blessing on each. Now he stiffened abruptly, shuddered and clasped his head with both hands, eyes rolling, face dreadfully contorted with pain. The young woman, Maria, snatched her baby from Caine and retreated to a corner. "It is Carlos," she moaned. "It is El Brujo. His power is too great for the boy. We will all be destroyed." She fled from the hut, followed by most of the others. On his knees beside the boy, Caine appeared to have seen and heard nothing. His thoughts were going back. Picture 6. Long ago, in a Shaolin temple, ablaze with the light of 1,000 candles, the young Caine had stood before the body of a friend and faced the fact of death. The friend had died of a curse, the curse of his master, the sorcerer Liu. How? The young Caine had asked. How can one die of a curse? Master Po, he of the unworldly wisdom, offered an answer. A curse has power only when there is a mind to give it power. Your friend believed he would die, did he not? Caine nodded sadly. He refused to believe otherwise. Master Po nodded too. He would be living, now had he made himself strong with the power of good. Against him the power of evil could not have prevailed. Remember that, grasshopper, and learn from the tragedy of your friend. Picture 7. With memories of Master Po, the power of good grew strong within Caine. Making his way to the cave of the dreaded Carlos, he went in. Those brave enough to have followed at a distance shook their heads. The stranger, they said, would never be seen again by mortal eyes. It was a strange encounter between a man who loved all life and another so filled with hate that he longed only to destroy it. The sorcerer threatened and boasted, holding his hand in a candle flame without harm to show his magic power. He promised Caine would find the boy dead upon his return, but Caine regarded him calmly. The boy will be well, he said. He will rise and walk with me to the church. There he will be safe. Viewmaster Reel 2. Picture 1. Thus it came about that village eyes were treated to a sight that filled some with blank disbelief and others with a hope there might yet prove to be a power great enough to overcome the curse that lay like a dead hand upon them all. The stranger was leading the boy down the dusty street toward the little church. The boy walked, they observed, like one in a trance, but still he walked, and the stranger not only had come to no harm, but was as tranquil as the breeze of evening. Picture 2. Meanwhile, unknown to Caine, sentence had been passed upon him. Don Fierro had decided the stranger was potentially a disturbing influence, a threat to the little empire he ruled like a feudal lord. He must leave here, the Don told Esteban. Take what men you need and see to it. For this reason Caine suddenly found his way to the church, beared by Esteban and 3 of his vaqueros, ropes at the ready. Nervous but determined, the horseman headed Caine like a balky steer when he tried to pass peaceably through to where the priest, Father Salazar, waited in the doorway. When he persisted, showing no sign of fear, the nearest vaqueros, at a sign from Esteban, threw their coiled ropes and the church square exploded into action. With the deceptively deliberated motion of one trained in the ancient art of kung fu, Caine ducked under the first rope, seized the second as it settled over his shoulders, and with what seemed no more than a gentle twist of the torso, yanked the horseman from his saddle and brought him thudding to the dusty earth. Picture 3. One after another, the horses plunged and sidestepped. The men shouted curses, and the dust billowed up. Esteban saw his followers plucked out of their saddles as if by some supernatural power and hurled to the ground, where they lay gasping for breath. It was too much for a man reared in the superstition-ridden region of San Martin, and the major domo panicked. Drawing his gun, he leaned low in the saddle and fired point blank at this devil incarnate, only to find his wrist struck with an upward blow like that of a club, and his bullet going wild. It was actually a bare but deadly foot swung at the end of an impossible leap. Utterly demoralized, Esteban put the spurs to his horse. Picture 4. In the church, Caine found the boy safe, but still in his trance. He also found the good priest disconsolate. "I have failed," he said. In their fear, the people turned from God to the devil worship of their ancestors. Listen, those are the drums of the ancient pagan rites. Now the priest looked into Caine's eyes, puzzled and troubled. "You seem a good man. Yet the old woman trusted a boy to you, and she called herself a witch. Tell me, are you too a witch? Do you command the powers of darkness?" Caine returned the priest's gaze. The light of the candles on the altar wavered and flickered in a sudden draught. He felt himself moving backward in time, and suddenly it was no longer Father Salazar who stood before him, but another. It was the sorcerer Liu, whose curse had killed his friend so long ago. Picture 5. The Shaolin students had filled their jugs at the stream. As they walked past the ancient sorcerer, he stood erect and fixed young Caine with a hypnotic gaze. "My powers are limitless," Liu told the spellbound boy, "for I alone possess the secrets of the universe. I can pass this knowledge only to one who is worthy. My last apprentice proved unworthy and he died. But you, will you come with me and learn to use the powers of earth, of sky, of universe?" Even now, a world away in time and space, Caine the man could hear the voice of Caine the boy as the words came out, drawn, it seemed, by a power beyond all understanding. "Yes, yes, master, I will come, I will learn." Picture 6. Outside, the pagan ritual was beginning. Miguel had been chosen by lot to wear the devil's mask and play the leading role. As he sat on the ground, facing the mask, the frightened villagers alternately said their rosaries and stroked their magic amulets. The beat of the drums quickened, and the mock priests, who were part of the ceremony, raised a wailing chant. Picture 7. In the temple of Liu, the great sorcerer murmured a series of incantations, dangling a cut crystal amulet hypnotically. Billows of red smoke rolled upward. Fear clutched at the heart of the young Caine, but there was something else as well. It was the face, dimly seen, of Master Po, gently repeating the words of a lesson he had learned long since, but could not in this moment recall. The sound of the sorcerer's voice filled the candle-lit chamber. Come forth, I command you, and do the bidding of Liu, your master." As the boy stood rooted by fear, it seemed impossible to move. Yet it was suddenly unthinkable to stay. This was an evil thing, and in his heart the young Caine knew it. Then an agonized cry, tearing itself from his throat, the boy whirled and dashed blindly from the presence of the sorcerer and out into the light of the sun and the land of the living. Viewmaster Reel 3. Picture 1. Caine remained in the church until long after dark, when suddenly his meditations were aborted as the door burst open to reveal the figure of the devil, pitchfork in hand. With a howl of rage, the fiend lunged, tearing Caine's sleeve and gashing the flesh beneath. Then, stepping back, he tore the mask from his head. It was not Miguel, but Carlos, the evil genius of Saint-Martin. This time he exulted, turning to face the startled Don Fierro, who had come to confront Caine in person. When the ritual ends, the devil will not be put back in his box. Picture 2. The next day, Don Fierro sought Caine out to report his hunting hawk was missing. It couldn't happen, he said fearfully. Without supernatural intervention, Carlos is behind it. Just then Esteban brought word he had found the hawk. Dead, he said, fingering his amulet, inside a magic circle and without a mark on its body. Led to the scene, Caine examined the dead bird. It is true, he said, there is no mark upon him. My mark is on him. The gloating voice was that of Carlos, who emerged from a hiding place on the hill above and slowly advanced. It is my warning to you, Don Fierro, that you will die for murdering my wife long ago. Shaken, Don Fierro appealed to Caine. It wasn't murder, I swear it. She came at me with a knife at Carlos' command, she told me. Please, stranger, give me your protection, for you alone are unafraid. Picture 3. The gloating laugh burst out again, and Carlos stepped closer. Fool! The stranger can't help you. As for Elena, you killed her to serve my purpose, and it is now my purpose that you die. He made a mark on the earth and spat on it. By the spirits that serve me, Don Fierro, you will die when the sun goes down. Goaded by fear, Don Fierro slid his gun from its holster, but Carlos only laughed and made a sign in the air. You will not shoot me. The gun is hot. It burns your flesh. With a cry of pain, Don Fierro flung the gun away, clutching his blistered hand. With an insolent smile, Carlos removed the Don's head and settled it jauntily on his own head. Picture 4. Once more time and space were distorted, and the young Caine stood trembling before Master Po after his frantic flight from the sinister temple of Liu. As I ran from his presence, he cursed me. The boy reported, Now I shall die, just as my friend died, who was cursed before me. Master Po held a candle to the mirror. Think well, grasshopper, he said. Is the mirror harmed by the flame? No, master, it only reflects it. The master nodded. Be like the mirror. Reflect evil to its source, and it will never pass into you. Go now and sleep. Picture 5. Strengthened by this visit to the past, Caine returned to the church, where he whispered to the unconscious boy that the spell over him would soon be lifted. Then he went to the courtyard, where he sat and waited, knowing Carlos would take this move as a challenge. The evil one soon came. He dropped the devil mask contemptuously at Caine's feet. Then, with the hay fork, he drew a large circle around Caine on the ground and 3 marks that led toward the spot where Caine sat. He pointed up to the cross that crowned the courtyard wall. In an hour's time the shadow of the cross will touch you, he intoned. When it touches you, you will die. Caine sat in the utter quietude. He had learned from the master long ago. Not a blink, not a movement of breathing could be seen by the intently watching villagers. The sun moved lower in the sky, and the shadow of the cross moved with it. The shadow crossed the first mark, the second, the third. Now it began its slow march across the face of the motionless figure. A great sigh went up as the people held their breath collectively. Then nothing happened. A faint smile appeared on the face of the stranger, and he got to his feet. Picture 6. A murmur rose, grew louder, and a voice was heard. The stranger lives. El Brucho has failed. With a bellow of rage, Carlos seized a sickle from a bystander and leaped at the stranger. It was a wild battle but a brief one. Brute rage was no match for the art of kung fu, and soon Carlos lay stunned on the ground, his power gone forever. The very church bells echoed the cheers of the people. Picture 7. A second sensation came when the church door opened, and out came the boy, who walked straight to Caine and smiled up into his eyes. "Stay in Saint Martin," Caine said. "It is your home now." "It is your home too," said Father Salazar, who had followed the boy from the church, "if you choose to stay." Caine shook his head, smiling a little. "There's no need for me now. Your people's fears have left them. It is possible that I am needed elsewhere." Shaking his hand warmly, Don Fierro said, "In our hearts you will remain with us." "Go with God," said Father Salazar. The villagers looked regretfully after the tall figure as it strode down the dusty street, bound for almost anywhere. We want to add new videos every day, so please subscribe to our channel.
And if you had fun, thumbs up.